Since I'm expected to be talking about the environment, I thought it would be proper to start with a theory. This is not the theory of evolution or the theory of relativity. I think it's something more important than that. And it is called the theory of love. Now, this theory of love is very simple. Number one, it means that when you love what you do, you become very good at it. And when you love something or someone, you're very inspired and motivated to protect it, or him or her. So like a mom with children, right? And I grew up with two things that I loved very much. The first was art. I did musical theater for 10 years, so I was singing, dancing, acting. I started teaching musical theater when I was 15. At 16 years old, I took a creative writing course in New York, and I think that the turtle there was a sign of things to come. And then in college, I graduated a year ago, I majored in English studies, so it was a lot of literature and creative writing for me. My second love, and I say that with a question mark because as my introduction said, I kind of went into this by accident. But maybe my two passions fit into each other because as the quote says, the earth without art is just eh. My father is an environmental lawyer, so I grew up exposed to nature. Other dads went to offices, I went tree planting. And when I showed this picture to my best friend, he said, "Your brother is so cute." And I was like, that's me. And then so I was out in the sand and the sea and the sun at a very young age. We were rescuing marine turtles when I was about 8 years old. And then at 15, I became a scuba diver. And that's how my love affair with the Philippine seas got bigger. They say that the richest marine life in the world is located in the Coral Triangle, which is in the, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And the epicenter of that center is in the Philippine Islands, where I was born and where I grew up. And then, in a biodiversity expedition conducted last year, the studies declared that the Philippines is where the action is, and we have more diversity on land and water than any other place in the world. Now, this study was published in several publications, including Fox, BBC, and we were in the front page of National Geographic, and one of the things that they discovered was an inflatable shark among the 300 species. So this is us, this is the Philippine seas in National Geographic, and this was in June. Sometime in November, we again made the headline, and this time it was for the best shots of imperiled sea life. And when I saved that picture, the file name was garbage. And as you can see, this is my beloved Philippine seas. Buried in wastes. I think that the Philippines may be the center of biodiversity, but we're also the center of adversity. And anything illegal and destructive can be found in the Philippines. About a year ago, I saw this in the front page of the newspaper, and it said that coral reefs twice the size of Manila destroyed. Now, this issue was called the Rape of the Philippine Seas, and there were 161 turtles and 20,000 pieces of black corals that were taken from our oceans. And when this happened, I was crying, and it felt like a breakup. I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep, but you know, I learned that boys are replaceable, but these marine resources are not. And at that time, I was about to graduate college with my degree in English, and I was thinking about going into publishing or advertising. It seemed like a better fit. And I was not a lawyer, I was not a scientist, but I was very passionate about it. And so I wrote. I wrote to different government agencies. You know, I became an environmental lawyer overnight, and I cited violations that the company was doing. And one by one, I got rejection letters. You know, they said, "Oh, this is not our responsibility," and then go to the next one. So I uploaded them on scrib.com for transparency, and they were read out loud in the ASEAN Wildlife Enforcement Network. And I was thinking, you know, if plan A failed, then I had several letters to go. And so they say that sometimes the only mode of transportation is a leap of faith. And so I took that leap of faith all the way to the Philippine Senate. And I waited outside the senator's office saying that, you know, I have news and I hope that you can help me. And I waited, and then he said, "Why don't you testify in the Senate hearing tomorrow?" And I thought he was kidding, but then he was actually serious. So I ended up testifying in the Senate hearing, and it was aired on national television, and parts of my speech were in the front page of the newspaper the following day. And every government official that I wrote about and I wrote to were in the same hearing. And now they reply on the same day. So that is a good move. My dad always says that every crisis should be seen as an opportunity, and that issue became the opportunity for Save Philippine Seas, which is a movement that I co-founded to protect the Philippine seas by harnessing the power of social media and lobbying for the enforcement of environmental laws. And one of the first projects we did was a blog action day held on UN World Oceans Day, wherein Filipinos from all over the world wrote about the Philippine seas. And we have several online and offline projects. One is we're launching a new website this summer. And we have a mobile application for Android and Apple coming out where you can report good and bad practices on the Philippine seas. And it's a database of dive operators, dive sites, and NGOs that people can volunteer for. We have offline projects as well. We just started the series of workshops on marine biology for non-marine biologists like myself. And then we partner with student organizations around the Philippines to engage young people like myself to be more aware of the issues that surround my country. Now, my work has been focused a lot on sharks, and I've gained the nickname Sharkira because of my love for singing and dancing after the singer Shakira, and my obsession with these creatures. I think sharks are the most fascinating animals, but they're also the most misunderstood animals. They've been around for 400 million years. That's older than dinosaurs, and we kill about 70 to 100 million sharks a year. That's nothing compared to the fatal shark attacks, which are like 10 every year. This happens in the Philippines. This is taken in southern Philippines where fins are just dried out in the open. Northern Philippines where families, children, and parents slaughter sharks together, not just for their fins, but also for their liver, because it is believed that shark liver oil makes people whiter. Education is key in this issue. Sharks have gained a negative reputation thanks to movies like Jaws. And when I was in Manila Ocean Park, I saw this and I was very upset. So I, again, wrote a letter. And I said, for an institution that claims to be promoting marine education, you're not doing a very good job. Why don't you just call it Shark Encounter? Because that's what it is. It's a shark exhibit encouraging people to dive with sharks. And look at the shark that you chose. The teeth are all out there like it's about to bite someone. And to my surprise, 3 weeks later, they actually changed it to this. And their latest poster has a copy saying, say no to sharks, fin soup, and we have to protect the top creatures of the sea. And I think we're doing a fairly good job because I got this letter from a 6-year-old named Ariel, like the Little Mermaid, and that's her and me diving with sharks. And then she wrote me this letter. She said, I think sharks are scary because they're trying to protect their home. So we can see a little movement in the education department. I think that the goal for education should be for people to be scared for sharks and not of them. Now, there's a misconception that environmentalists have to be angry tree huggers, or they have to look disheveled, and they have to be scientists, and they have to be starving, and they have to be old. But I think that nature conservation can be done in style. And my personal... Thank you. My personal take is a top-down, bottom-up approach. When I say top-down, I go straight to the government. And if before writing letters was my hobby, now it's writing laws and legislation. So this is a law I wrote to ban shark fishing and finning in the Philippines, and it was filed last year, and I'm set to defend it in Congress in a few months. And then I wrote the Fisheries Administrative Order to protect thresher sharks. And again, I was rejected, and I was told that there are too many things going on and we don't have enough resources. But then I persisted a little bit more, and now it's set for another reading as well. And now, thanks to the Future for Nature, we get to go on a bottom-up approach by building the first thresher shark shelter in the Philippines. Now, the objective is to establish my country and the place where this is going to be built, Cebu, as a leader in marine conservation. And it aims to link existing projects and create existing projects for the different stakeholders. Now, the significance, the Philippines is one of the few places in the world where you can see thresher sharks almost every day. And it fuels 80% of the regional economy. And yet they're still finned and fished, and that's a report that was on Facebook, and they're classed as vulnerable in the IUCN Red List. Now, my role in this project is to be an enabler and a dot connector among the different stakeholders. Two pillars for this one: enforcement and education. For enforcement, of course, we'll be putting demarcation lines, because how can you protect something if you don't know where it is? And then we'll be holding regular stakeholders dialogue to be able to listen to the different stakeholders, and then review and perhaps even revise the existing ordinances. And then capacity building for the sea wardens and the community organizers. For education, we'll be improving the curriculum of the high school. And then there's a library across the school with nothing inside it, so we'll be fixing that. And then we want to use art as a tool for education by creating things like this, like through paper cutting, painting, theater, because Filipinos are known to be lovers of the art. It's necessary to protect these species because as the top of the marine ecosystem, they're necessary in maintaining the balance, which includes human beings, because more than half of our oxygen comes from the sea. In other words, by saving sharks, we're actually saving us. And I think that's key in any kind of nature conservation project. You have to make it about people. And I love this ad because it says, just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean it isn't there. And it's about that little boy who will still see, the impacts of our decisions many years from now. It amazes me that in the Philippines, 4 out of 10 people live below poverty line, and we're supposed to be the richest in marine life, and that we lose 8.4 billion every year because we don't protect our seas. And yes, we can continue planting trees and going on coastal cleanups, and my friends and I, we plant corals in the sea. But it's also important to plant the world with hope. And St. Augustine said that hope has 2 beautiful daughters, anger and courage. Anger that the way things are, and courage to make them the way they ought to be. Now, if you ask me, am I going to succeed in my project? The answer is, I don't know. And please don't take back my award. But James Cameron said that in anything, failure has to be an option, but fear is not. And what I can promise Future for Nature is that I have the courage to make things the way they ought to be. And as a Filipino who lives in the richest marine life in the world, I have a greater responsibility to protect our trees and our seas. And when you ask me what my real advocacy is, it's not marine conservation or global warming, it's to stop global whining. And what I mean by that is to just sit around and complain and whine about the issues that are going around and not doing anything about it. And so, on behalf of all the sharks in the world, I would like to say that my motto is this. I'm one person. I just turned 24 years old a month ago. I'm not an expert. In fact, I hope I never become an expert. I want to be a student of the sea and of the environment my whole life. But I am one person, and I think that if the people will lead, the leaders will follow. So thank you very much for this award.